So, a lot of us take some kind of daily medication for our long term health, right? But have you ever stopped to think about how those pills might be interacting with, well, your lunch? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden conversations happening between common drugs and the essential nutrients our bodies need to thrive. We take our medications because we trust them to help us. But what if, while they're doing their job, they're also quietly taking something away? Now, the answer isn't some scary, simple yes or no. It's actually a really fascinating, complex dance between chemistry and biology. And understanding that dance is frankly critical for your long-term health. The reality is that for millions of people, the long-term use of very common drugs can lead to something called nutrient depletion. And this isn't an overnight thing. It's a super slow burn, a gradual process that can happen over months or even years, which makes it really tough to spot unless you know exactly what you're looking for. All right, so let's shine a bright light on this hidden side effect. And I want to be really clear. This is not about fear-mongering, not at all. This is all about empowerment. Understanding these interactions is a powerful piece of knowledge for taking charge of your health. So what are we actually talking about here? Well, the scientific term is a drug-nutrient interaction. Basically, it's any way a drug can interact with a nutrient's journey through your body, whether it's blocking it from being absorbed in your gut or changing how it gets used inside your cells. And over time, that little bit of interference can add up and lead to a real drop in your nutrient levels. Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does this actually look like in the real world, with medications you've probably heard of or maybe even take yourself? Let's dig into some of the most widely prescribed drugs and see what the science says. Let's start with a big one. You know those medications for heartburn or acid reflux? They're called proton pump inhibitors, or PPIs for short. Now, their whole job is to lower your stomach acid, which feels great for your throat. But here's the catch. Your body actually needs that acid to break down food and unlock vital nutrients like vitamin B12. And you can see the trade-off right here. By shutting down that acid production, PPIs can make it way harder for your body to pull vitamin B12 out of your food, and it can affect calcium absorption too. The data is pretty clear on this. The longer you use them, the more you see a drop in the status of these two really important nutrients. But, and this is a big but, the risk isn't the same for everybody. The research really points to a few groups that are more vulnerable. We're talking about older adults, who often have a tougher time absorbing B12 anyway, people who might already have a risk for bone issues, and of course, it really comes down to how long you've been taking the medication. Okay, let's switch gears from stomach acid over to blood sugar. Metformin, it's a really important cornerstone medication for managing type 2 diabetes, but it also has this one very well-documented interaction that you absolutely need to know about if you're taking it. Yeah, this quote from a major scientific review really nails it. Metformin can mess with your body's ability to absorb vitamin B12. And what's key here is that phrase, duration and dose dependent. In plain English, the longer you take it and the higher your dose, the bigger the potential hit to your B12 levels. That's a huge piece of the puzzle for long-term care. All right, how about blood pressure meds? Specifically, a type called diuretics. You might know them as water pills. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting, because not all diuretics are created equal. In fact, two different kinds can have the exact opposite effect on the same nutrient. Okay, check this out. It's pretty wild. On one side, you have loop diuretics. They make you lose more calcium when you go to the bathroom, which over time could increase your risk for weaker bones. But then on the other side, you have thiazide diuretics. They do the complete opposite. They actually help your body hang on to calcium. Some studies even suggest they might help protect against hip fractures. It just goes to show you, you can't paint a whole class of drugs with the same brush. So 27.4%, what do you think that number is? It's the percentage of adults in the US dealing with high cholesterol. That is a huge number, more than 1 in 4 people. And for a lot of them, the go-to treatment is a type of drug I know you've heard of, statins. Now, statins are fantastic at what they do, which is lowering cholesterol. But the way they work is by blocking a specific pathway in your body. The thing is, that same pathway is also used to make something else, a little something called coenzyme Q10 or CoQ10. And CoQ10 is absolutely essential for making energy in our cells, especially in places that work really hard, like our heart and muscles. So as statins do their important job, they can also be dialing down your body's own production of CoQ10. Okay, so we've seen a bunch of examples of the what, which drugs affect which nutrients. But what about the how? What's actually happening inside your body? It really comes down to three main ways this can all go down. So first up, a drug can just get in the way of absorption, making it harder for your gut to grab a nutrient from your food. That's what we saw with the PPIs and B12. Second, it can mess with metabolism, changing how your body processes or uses a nutrient once it's inside. And third, it can literally speed up excretion. It makes you get rid of a nutrient faster than you normally would, like with those loop diuretics and calcium. It's these tiny, subtle changes to how your body works. Okay, that's a lot of information. So, what are you supposed to do with it? This brings us to the most important part of this whole conversation: how you can turn all this knowledge into real practical action for your health. And let me just say this again because it is so, so important. The point here is not to freak out and stop taking your medication. Please do not do that. The goal is simply to be aware, to be informed, so you can be a true, active partner in your own healthcare journey. So, what can you actually do? Well, here are a few simple, practical steps. Number one, just talk about it. Bring up these potential interactions with your doctor or your pharmacist. Number two, focus on your diet. Eating a wide variety of nutrient-rich foods is always your best first line of defense. And finally, and this is the big one, never change your medication routine or start taking new supplements without talking to a medical professional first. You know, this quote from the research really says it all perfectly. The recommendation isn't for everyone to just start popping supplements. The real goal is to make sure that people who might be at a higher risk are getting what they need from their vitamins and minerals. And ideally, that starts with food. And that's really what this is all about. It's about having a smarter, more complete conversation with your doctor. A conversation that isn't just about managing one specific condition, but about looking at your whole long-term health picture. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Is your medicine cabinet having a conversation with your pantry? Because finding out the answer, well, that could make all the difference for your health. Thanks for joining me.